SiOC this year. And I thought we'd get things going so we can work these guys as hard as we can in the hour that we have them. So before we get started, one of the things with SiOC is training and education and networking, and we have someone that would like to be on stage who would like to begin.
I just want to let you know that my firm, ProPros has an opening for account executive, 3 to 7 years experience in media relations, project management, and advertising campaign management. And I've got some job descriptions here if you're interested or know somebody who preferably has agency experience, fast-paced, really organized, and able to manage clients and lead them. I'd love to hear about more of that.
Thank you. And Ian's going to be here at the end, too. So, all right, I'm going to start to introduce our panelists. We've got 2 out of 3, and they're all very busy, and I appreciate them taking the time to run over here, and they've got to get fast as soon as they can. So what we're going to do is we'll start with Lori Walden, news director with KCRA TV. Lori is a native Californian who recently returned to California in Sacramento to become news director at KCRA TV, Channel 3, and KQCA TV, Channel 58. She was news director at her sister station in Milwaukee since 2006. While in Milwaukee, Lori also served as chair of the ABC News Directors Advisory Board. Before joining Hearst in Milwaukee, Lori worked as assistant news director at KOVR Channel 13 and KMAX TV Channel 31. She also worked for 13 years in news management at KPIX TV Channel 5 in San Francisco. In addition, she's held reporting jobs at television stations in Charlotte, North Carolina, Mobile, Alabama, and Peoria, Illinois. She has been a visiting journalism instructor at the Poynter Institute and has served as a leadership coach for the Radio and Television News Director Association and Foundation. And that's just in her spare time. And Mary Lynn Valinga is the business editor at the Sacramento Bee. She's worked at the Bee for 22 years, except for a brief stint as a press secretary and legislative aide for a state senator. That must have sent her running back. For most of that time, she was a reporter, but for the past 4 years, she's been the paper's business editor. In this capacity, she oversees business reporters, columnists, and some reporters in the Metro department. Mary Lynn holds a master's degree in journalism from Northwestern University. And last but not least, I'm going to just go ahead and say Judy's bio because I know she's on her way. And Judy Farah began her career as a general assignment reporter for the Associated Press in Los Angeles from 1985 to 1990. She covered major news stories that included the Hillside Strangler trial, the crime spree of the Night Stalker, the Academy and Emmy Awards shows, Los Angeles politics, and the Ronald Reagan presidency. For the last 17 years, Judy's been the news director and senior editor for KFBK Radio. She edits and directs a daily, live, 3-hour news show, which means she is responsible for putting the entire newscast together, editing and writing stories, assigning reporter, and setting up live interviews. Her specialties include politics, crime, and outdoor recreation. She has received the Edward R. Murrow National Award, Best Series in 2001, the Edward R. Murrow Award for Best Writing in 2004, the Northern California Radio and Television News Directors, Best Newscast. She's been awarded the Jefferson Fellowship in 2009, the American Women in Radio and Television Good News Award in 2009. And she has a BA in Communication from William Patterson University in New Jersey. And I think at some point she's going to run into them. Because that's who Judy is. So we wanted to ask you, obviously we're all very anxious to get your expertise here. And I think a lot of us want to know how the 24-hour news cycle is affecting news and how it affects us approaching it. And it used to be where we would approach it at certain times of day, and not when you had meetings, and now we're not even sure when to approach it. So how about if I just start with that question?
Okay. Yeah, it's just, we are people and way more hands than we historically had. So it's hard. I guess I would say that I prefer email because the landline, that too, you know, how communication has evolved, right? So I have my cell phone on me all the time, but the landline maybe is checked once a day, and you're likely not to get any kind of immediate response if you leave a message there. So, but email is checked all the time, because of course you can check it on your cell phone too when you're walking around the newsroom. So, you know, there's no great time because we're posting online stuff all day, and we now have a tablet edition that comes out in the afternoon too, or late afternoon, and then paper the next day. So demand's sort of pretty constant. But probably the best time, if I were to say, is, you know, around this time. It's after our morning news meeting, and it's before, you know, we start getting into deadline territory for the tablet and for the daily paper. Definitely email and you know, and make the stuff reply good and, you know, get our attention. Don't have it be something I'm not going to know this or it's going to get buried, because we literally get one email a minute. So it gets very well spent. So the stuff is important.
I think you would also ask about how the media has changed. And I think it used to be that you could walk into a newsroom and hear a lot of scanners. And we got all of our stories from, you know, police radios and making beat checks. And it's really a different world. I had someone who was in for a job interview yesterday, and she walked into our newsroom and she said, God, it is so quiet. And that's because in this day and age of Twitter, it is constant. It is a constant stream. And this is now our scanner. And it is 24/7. And one person can put a tweet out, and it can change an entire news day. So how we consume our news is very, very different. It doesn't mean that we still don't want to get press releases. And there is no substitute for the human, for the phone call. I think that's really important too. But I would agree. I think it's really important to be cognizant of when our busy times are. So all this, you know, I'll cut to the chase. I think for us, I'll start with when to avoid. I remember the PIOs who call me at 5 minutes to 5 because that tells me that they have no concept of what we do and who we are. 5 minutes to 5, we are 2 minutes to news time, and we're strapping in and we're watching what we do. We work 9 hours for a newscast, and that's when we're all watching what we do. So if you call me at that time, I'm not going to pick up the phone. The assignment desk will, but I'm not necessarily going to. Email is fabulous. I'm always on it. So is our assignment desk. So are our reporters. Twitter is it. I mean, everybody's on it. Social media is huge, and we mine it all of the time. So I think this is how people are consuming their news. There are people who don't even go to our website anymore. They just get their news from Facebook and Twitter, and so it's the new world order.
So Judy, I apologize. I know you're all very busy.
No.
And I'm huffing and puffing down J Street or something. I went to some other buildings. So
I'm so sorry. We just started. We read your bio. We read your bio, and I just asked the first question, which I think you just heard the tail end.
I agree with everything Lori said.
Yeah. How has the 24-hour news cycle changed? Like, how has the 24 news cycle changed? How we approach you? How we get news on the air?
Yes, it's constant. All of our news, our emails are 24/7, and everything now is Twitter. That's the first place I go to get breaking news. I follow all the different news agencies. I've really been impressed the past year how a lot of PIOs have really stepped up and realized that's what they have to do. Talking more about first responders like Sacramento Police or Sacramento Fire, all they have to do is put out like fire burning here, and that will save them a ton of phone calls that we won't bother them. We can call them directly. One thing I will disagree with, I don't like taking phone calls. I deal with 700 emails a day, so I'd rather you pitch very succinctly, get to the point in the first sentence or two, and grab my attention with that opening line or header, because I don't have time. If I took 5 minutes to talk to 10 people who call every day, that means I can't set up a newscast. I also set up a 3-hour, still out of breath. I still set up a 3-hour live news show every day. And like Lori, Kitty O'Neill has been on the air at KPK for 27 years. We still get calls 4 or 5 o'clock. Hi, Dr. Kitty. That's all you got, here. So be very cognizant of letting people make the time to do the best pitches earlier in the day before we go into news. even though there's breaking news, like we had the Pope yesterday, people are pitching me on soccer stuff and things are coming up in May. No. Know about what's going on that day. So
What time of day is the best to?
before we both take air, I mean,
Yeah.
we take air at 4 for the afternoon news, between the hours of 9 and 3, 9 a.m. and 3.
I would also say too, we tend to have 2 points where we have editorial meetings. And our first editorial meeting is at 9:30, and that's where we kind of make the sausage and decide, here are the stories that we're going to do. And then we have an afternoon meeting for our evening crew. And that was usually, that varies, but generally around 3 o'clock. The times right before it, we're all kind of hustling to get our stories together. But I would say after that, so kind of the sweet spot for when I am able to take phone calls. And generally I don't for a lot of stories, but when I do, I would say from 10:30 to about 1 or 2. Doesn't mean I'm always going to pick up the phone, I'm going to be honest. But that's when we tend to get most of our story pitches. And then I would say from 3:30 to just before 5.
And then yours was kind of like lunchtime, you said this time.
Well, no, our morning news meeting is at 10:30, although we're talking now about moving it up to as early as 10. By 11 o'clock, I'm generally back at my desk. There's sort of a little bit of a lull, as much as there can be, with the news happening constantly. Until, then once you get to like 2 or 3, then stories are starting to come in, or we're trying to, now we have the iPad tablet edition, which comes out in the evening, and all those stories are supposed to be with their assignment editors by picking up. So it's sort of similar, late morning, early afternoon.
Okay, as far as social media, are you guys monitoring social media? Is that where you're getting a lot of your stories?
Well, we were monitoring, TV and are probably really very different in that way. We're monitoring social media all the time, but, and our police reporters, certainly just like television, are getting a lot of their stories from the Post, the SiOC and the Fire, they're very good about it. I'm personally running the King story, and that story has really been, Twitter has completely changed that story, because, I've got 3 people working on it all the time. Still, little Twitter fires are breaking out all the time, and sometimes they're crazy, and sometimes they're valid. You can't discount any of them. So every time someone tweets some wild thing on a Saturday afternoon, my reporters have to check it out, and that's, so that's how it's been affecting me lately. I don't, we try, the newspaper is a little different in that, we're always trying to get something different or something deeper or something someone doesn't have. So once it goes out on Twitter, I mean, I don't know, I would rather be pitched individually than have something put out in the Twitter sphere, because then everybody has seen it, right? So, but if it's newsworthy, it'll get everybody's attention. It'll still get covered regardless.
I think it depends on the story.
Yeah.
Depends on what it is.
So do you guys need news press releases anymore, or is that the past, or you just want something short?
Yeah. No, first one is good.
Email them. Never fax them. Fax them. That's unbelievable. And just email them with a good subject line.
And get to it.
Yeah.
Don't vary what get our attention. I mean, we've got a stack of these, and we're looking at them, and especially when you're going to your email and you're looking at them, make your subject line provocative, and then get right to it. And what I would say too is the filter that I think we all use is we're thinking of viewer, listener, and reader. So why would they care? Don't make me have to figure out why this is something that we would want to cover. Tell us right away, here's why it's interesting.
What do you want on our, it seems like.
I would add to that is that people will send me emails, they send me 3 to 5 YouTube links. This is what the story is about. Do you think I have time to go read about YouTube links? Another pet peeve is, like I said, don't send me emails for your event coming up in May. We kind of work week to week, that's not the consciousness. Sacramento has so many great events going on every weekend, charity runs, food events, that's going to get my attention this weekend, something that's coming up. Remind me as we get closer is what I usually say. And the worst thing to do, this happens a lot, mostly on national pitches or PR requests. They send me a great pitch, great guest that's been perfect for that day, somebody who could talk about the military or something. Oh, he's not available today. Well, why did you send it to me? Or maybe next week? No, if the topic is current today, I want to know about it today and have the guest available, or else don't send it.
Well, then that jumps to a story. Oh wait, no. First one was, are press kits worthwhile anymore, or do you want certain things on our website, or your thoughts on that? What's the story?
If the press kit has food, everything.
That is one of my questions. That is one of my questions. People used to bring foods and stuff with their press release.
Oh, yeah, but I'm not gonna. I mean, it's catchy, and it's one of those things where you know, everyone gathers around and they food and they go, hey. But in all honesty, someone will pick up the press release and go, oh, it's there, or whatever it is. Oh, we'll remember that. And it doesn't mean that if you send something and it doesn't have the goodies, that we won't cover it. But it does get you noticed, you know, in a news operation that gets a lot of stuff. What you want is you want your press release email to bubble up to the top, because we get a lot of that. Doesn't mean you have to do that, but I will admit it's effective.
And plus, I know, like in the news, when it comes into the newsroom, everyone's excited. And I guess most of my staff people, I'm going to go to this event this weekend. And they start telling other people, so it happens like just organically. This is a really great event. I didn't know about it. And press kits too, same fact, also my printers and YouTubes. I get sent those plug-in things, I get CDs and stuff like that. We don't have, you know, we have to tell the story in a minute or so. You know, try to do it all.
I'm shocked at the waste of paper and packaging and ridiculous things that people send. Huge boxes with tiny little things in them. It's shocking. It really is. You know, there's no reason. It depends on what's in your press kit, obviously, but it has to be pertinent and to the thing you're printing. And for us, the printing is really problematic. You know, we have very, very strict rules about these things, and half the time we just give it away to charity. If it's perishable right then, we have to eat it. But it's not just like, it's not like a good thing to do from our perspective. I mean, all the swag that comes in the newsroom, it all gets auctioned off in a charity sale, and all the money goes to charity. Reporters don't take that stuff. They can't. They're not allowed to.
No.
Yeah.
But we don't get that kind of stuff to the news. We don't get tickets and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm talking about the pie, the cupcakes. I'm not going to throw that away.
It has to be right away. Like, we've had amazing quantities from some of the news, and we've gone down and given them to Wilson Fisher and stuff. But if it's something like that has to be eaten right then they'll just put it in front of the newsroom. But I don't know that it's beneficial in our operation to send food.